Good morning. Good morning. So civilized at 10 o'clock. You're prepping for the chapel when we all have to button up. Well, it is a gorgeous morning, and we are fortunate to have one more week here at the beach. Let's pray. God, we give thanks for the opportunity to gather here and to experience the common grace that is all around us every day. May we enter into the mystery this morning with open minds and open hearts. Amen. Amen.
Thinking of me, somehow I remember someday when we're lonely, wishing you were so far away, and I remember things we said today. Time.
and Cheryl Wilson this morning providing music. We are celebrating a buffalo baby, Catherine Wasseau, and little Catherine is right here. And essentially, a buffalo baby is our church. Our intention is to donate at least one buffalo bicycle to World Bicycle Relief to the tune of $147. And we've already got one donation in total from the Wasseaus, so thank you. So take that opportunity. There is a World Bicycle Relief jar over there in front of Patrick. So if you have a moment during the service, and now, say hello to those you see here. So a couple announcements this morning. The first announcement is rather obvious. I think next week we return to the chapel, but if the weather stayed like this, I guess we could stay out. Tom, did you hear that? Yeah, he's gone. We'll do what we want. The other thing, Tom, I hope you're having a good time. The sign right out there, Youths. Elliott?
Youth, hey, Youth has begun. I don't have to sing the song again, do I? So yeah, we started last Thursday. Thursdays at 5:30 at the church office. You don't have to be really, really good, but you just have to like ukulele and maybe know a few chords. But even if not, just come and hang out with your friends. We're singing. There's no tiptoeing through any tulips. No. We're singing all of your favorite songs. So 5:30 to 7 every Thursday for the next 9 Thursdays.
Elliott, good question. Are mandolin players allowed?
No mandolins allowed. Did you read the sign?
It's about the same size.
They are different animals.
Okay. Another announcement, this is about a month out. Renee Schuler, who's a local artist. Renee, I think, lives in Lake Bluff. She is hanging in a gallery in Paris right now, I believe. Or that show might have just ended. We are going to have an evening with Renee Schuler. She has quite a life story. And we're going to be doing that at Froggy's on October 24th, I believe, starting at 6. Or maybe we don't have a time yet. But it's October 24th, $25 for all kinds of generosity from Froggy's. So it should be a great evening. We're looking for 70 seats. So we'll limit it at 70. So you'll hear more about that. And I believe that's all. Yeah, and here we go. Part 1, a summer story that leads us to the wisdom of Teresa of Ávila. A passage from Philippians 4:12 through 13. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Okay, what happens to us, or what happens to you, emotionally and soulfully, when disaster strikes, when your health fails, when a dear one passes, when Equifax is hacked and they get your social security number and birth date? And how do we, maybe most importantly, how do we respond to the mundane, often pernicious situations of life? Do we have stability, joy, depth of resource? How do I respond to a cell phone going off during the service? story about first part. A story about one of these mundane, pernicious situations of life. From my life, I'm gonna get vulnerable. At the start of summer, I realized that it was time to get a car wrap and a bicycle attachment for our car. Now, wanting the best fit, I went to the dealer. And so I headed over to the dealer to inquire. And I budgeted an hour for this engagement at the dealership, because that afternoon I also wanted to get to Dr. Mason's office. Anybody been to Dr. Mason? I was going to be there at 3. I was going to be first in line because I'd heard his line fills up quite quickly. So I was at Canals and I was the only customer. No one else was in sight for parts and service. And I watched dealership employees bustle around, the guys with the embroidered name, but no one was stopping to talk to me. And so approximately 15 minutes go by, and then the odds became too much, and finally an employee, noticing my vacant gaze, says, "Sir, have you been helped?" And I said that, no, but I needed to talk to parts. And he said, "Well, did you ring the bell?" And I said, "No, I didn't. There's a bell." And he kind of huffs a little and marches past me to a table just behind where I was standing and sets upright a sign that was laying face down on what looks to be a doorbell. And the sign says, "Parts and service, please ring." So he rings the bell and says curtly, as if I'd missed something terribly obvious, "Someone should be right out." So minutes pass and no one comes. And growing a bit agitated, I rang the bell a couple times and waited some more. And then after a few minutes, a dealership employee greeted me with the same question. "Sir, have you been helped?" Sort of, I said. He gave me a look as if to say, it's a yes or no question. Sort of doesn't really cut it. I gave a look back that said, I'm sort of losing my patience. And he says, I'll go and see if I can find someone to help. Minutes pass. As I waited, a man comes into the service area looking as if he needed help, just like me, except I've been waiting 25 minutes and I've rung the doorbell and he's just arrived. And I think to myself, if this guy intercepts my parts guy coming out of the back, and my parts guy mistakes him for me, and then how do I know if he needs parts? Should I ask him and begin coordinating the situation myself? Maybe he's looking for service. There seem to be plenty of service guys, because if they were parts guys, wouldn't they have already helped me? My mind is pretty noisy. And then, but I'll never know who's parts and who's service, because the service guys wear the same uniform as the parts guys. And apparently they all respond to the same doorbell. Then the newbie customer walks past me, again, bypassing the doorbell altogether, and is now several feet closer to where the parts and service originate, presumably where they emerge from the back. What was I going to do? Maybe clear my throat loudly and sort of point to myself, indicating to the newbie I'm ahead of him, or maybe just tackle him right there on the perfect clean floor. I prefer the method of once upon a bagel, you take a number, you got proof. Hey, look, I'm 97. And so I opt to do nothing. except for quietly and, mind you, mildly, if it's possible, see.
Yeah.
And then it happens. A dealership man comes out and meets the newbie customer, and they chat amicably and disappear into the back. What if that was my parts guy? And I'm shouting this internally to nobody. But I'll never know because they all wear the same uniform. So I ring the doorbell now in rapid succession. Like, hey, more waiting. And then a gentleman comes out of the back, heads my way. And I take a deep breath, coach myself. Okay, play it cool, nonchalance, and I say, must be busy in parts, eh? And he says, he gives a look that says, in parts? It's never busy in parts. How can I help you, he said. And I say, I'm looking for a car rack. And I give the model of the car. He gives a couple clicks on the computer and disappears in the back. And he's back in no time with a big box in his hands with my attachment and rack. And the exchange takes off like 5 minutes. I've been there now, maybe close to an hour. But the good news is I still have time to get to the chiropractor by 3. So I tear out of the dealership parking lot onto Rockland Road, headed east, and pull into a parking place in front of the chiropractor's office as if it's the last parking place in Lake Bluff. And I'm keeping an eye out for all those that are competing for first position at the chiropractors, and I've lost it. And no one seems to be challenging, but I walk with purpose, just short of a jog. And I get to the elevator and I triple click, which sped up the elevator, I'm sure. And then I arrive clearly in first. And I walk out of the hallway, and it seems a little dark. And then I walk to Dr. Mason's door. Mind you, this is the first time I've been there. The door is a little dark. So I pull out my computer. It's closed on Fridays. Do all this, and life can just go on like this, right? Stick around for part 2. This is going somewhere, I promise. Elliott has a original, The Bells of Ávila. The Bells of Ávila.
En la noche oscura, Spain's belief tesitura, a través la locura, where insanity brews on the rack and the sword, and the cries of Teresa go flatly ignored, atrocities done in the name of the Lord that only a saint believes.
And the family is no kind of life. But yes, I don't wanna be nobody's wife. So up on a hill, you follow your parade to live with your sister, cloistered up there. Cherish the scars with each breath that you draw under the stars of Ávila.
Allá en el fuego eterno y en this infierno of frescoes that bear no resemblance to works of Mundane and childhood. The Pope just ignores you, he thinks that you're wild. So you take off your shoes and you walk all the miles that only a saint can.
Strong, but your life made you tougher. It's a tale that I tell with each breath that I draw. For still hear the bells of Ávila, still under the spell of Ávila. I still hear the bells of
Church is dismissed. It's unbelievable. Now you know I was trying to get the Bells of Ávila sung earlier. It's unbelievable. If you have the chance, you might ask Elliott for those lyrics, because they're really, really powerful. Well, it's the common tendency. It's not St. Teresa of Ávila's common tendency, but it's most of our common tendency to approach the world in quite a self-centered way, kind of like me in that last story. Looking after oneself certainly has its place. As long as we remember, we are one of 7 billion persons on Earth, not to mention the other non-human residents. And that we're all dependent on the same common graces, the same common elements, the same common compounds that allow for life. The self-centered life brings us to many troubling situations, like going to the Parks Department of canals, where no one does anything wrong, really, except for me. And it inevitably skews wrong with the self-centered approach, and the I agenda looms front and center. And then that same mentality begins competing for first in line at the chiropractors, and that's closed. So something's out of alignment in this case. In this week's New Yorker, maybe Wendy Beaver's read it, and Dan, I know they subscribe. There's a cartoon that caught my eye. I said, oh, that's kind of what I'm talking about. In the cartoon, 3 people are on a subway. And the subway is presumably stopped, you know, and over the loudspeaker an announcement is made. We are being held momentarily to annoy Karen's girlfriend, who's been waiting at the restaurant for like 20 minutes. It's funny because many of us tend towards this self-centered approach to life. And it's perhaps the self-centered approach to life that eventually, not immediately, limits us, weakens us, and leaves us vulnerable when we face the invariable calamities, the inevitable calamities that really start to challenge us. Those things I mentioned at the front end: natural disasters, health failures, the passing of someone that we love, someone close fails or betrays us, Equifax is hacked, and then Equifax won't let you freeze your credit, and then the things just keep going. But I want to come back to the multitude of mundane situations that pervade daily life without end. What to do, where to go, who to look for help. Any guesses where we're going to look today? St. Teresa of Ávila. This morning we're going to look to her. If you aren't familiar with her, you don't want to get her mixed up with the other St. Teresas, and one yet to be St. Teresa. She was in her writings an inspiration, and as a person, apparently. She was a woman of action, spearheading political and religious reform in the time of the Inquisition. The strongest, most insidious, chauvinistic forces of her time were her opponents. And her complete works include 7 books, 450 letters, and assorted poetry. And her writings are considered masterful masterpieces of mystical prose and verse. In a time when the Inquisition forbade women to read. And at that time, she shifted to prayer and came to know God in a way that mystics tend to, unconventionally and potently, with potency. She was known for a quick wit and a provocative sense of humor and great physical beauty, and most of all, an abiding devotion to prayer. She personally founded 17 Carmelite convents and 2 monasteries while encountering adversities, one after the other, and adversaries. But Teresa knew God. Not the idea of God, the presence of God, which allowed her to not only survive the enormous challenges of life, but triumph. This morning, we're going to avail ourselves of Teresa's wisdom in order to catch a glimpse of that secret that Paul talks about in Philippians. Being strong, possessing joy, being full of peace in every possible situation that may come, including, perhaps especially, the mundane annoyances of life. Like going to the parks department, that can trip us up if our souls aren't screwed on right. The three poems of Teresa I'm going to read for you now, and we'll conclude with this, are translated by the legendary translator and poet Daniel Ladinsky. If you're not familiar with Daniel and you like mystic poetry, get a hold of him. May these poems nourish your soul, inspire your mind, and help lead your way. So the first here is titled, The Servant of Unity. Most men in power have not the strength or wisdom to be satisfied with the way things are. The sane know contentment, for beauty is their lover, and beauty is never absent from the world. The farther away light is from one's touch, the more one naturally speaks of the need for change. Yes, overthrow any government inside that makes you weep. The child blames the external and focuses his energies there. The warrior conquers the realms within and becomes gifted. Only the inspired should make decisions that affect the lives of many. Never a man who has not held God in his arms and become the servant of unity. And then the second, feeling desperate. The earth and sky will open their purse for you, and your life will change. If with all your heart you say these words each day, teach me, dear God, all that you know. One night, I walked through the streets feeling desperate, in need of alchemy. A hooded priest passed, where there were no lamps. I could not see his face. I only heard these words that he kept repeating. Teach me, dear Lord, all that you know. I knew a treasure had entered my soul. And finally, I will just say this. We bloomed in spring. Our bodies are the leaves of God. The apparent seasons of life and death, our eyes can suffer, but our souls, dear, I will just say this forthright, they are God himself. We will never perish unless he does. Amen. and I are the leaves of God, and we will never perish unless God does.
Impossible, right?
Go in peace.
Yeah.